Japan Part 88. Here, young, dexterous employees were, if anything, more useful than older, experienced ones with less dexterity, and young women were at least as agile as men. Late 19th and early 20th century Japanese textile manufacturers therefore offered wages based on a piece rate system without significant salary increases for seniority. Wages were so low and the factory conditions so unsatisfactory that most workers left before completing 2 or 3 years. And in some factories, turnover was even more rapid. Modern industry requiring a high level of skill faced different problems. As Ronald Dower has shown, the resulting late development pattern, unlike the industrialized countries, earlier indigenous development relied on more concreted, consulted planning, training, and investment. In sizable companies that manufacture steel, machine tools, electric equipments, and the like, companies needed to train both a group of highly skilled laborers and a group of white-collar managerial personnels, because these skills were not based on the experience with indigenous development. It took considerable time and capital investment to retain them. And since these new companies were in basic industries that were well financed and ultimately backed by the government, the companies were in a position to guarantee long-term employment. They therefore developed a seniority system of the wage increases such that the newly trained employees in whom the company invested so heavily would be motivated to remain. The system of seniority and permanent employment was by no means universal in Japanese industry, but it became the predominant pattern in the large-scale modern industrial sector and has since spread to the large commercial organizations as well. As the modern industrial sector expanded, a higher proportion of the company employees has gradually been bought into this seniority and permanent employment pattern. The modern form of the Japanese company has evolved considerably since the early 1900s. In the 1930s, during the World War II, Japanese companies were brought under increasingly tight government control. During the Allied occupation, the large Gabatsu firms were split up into smaller independent firms, but they gradually recombined into the present-day loosely organized groups after the end of the occupation. During the 1950s and 1960s, under government guidance, many smaller firms were consolidated in order to modernize, and new American technology and management were introduced. For a time, companies even considered copying the American pattern, whereby workers could be dismissed and laid off more easily and hired in mid-career. It might get rid of the employees with low performance. Reward bold, innovative employees held down by the system. Increase flexibility, give employees stifled in one company more options elsewhere, and reduce cost in declining sector. By the late 1960s, when Japanese business started outperforming companies in the West, Japanese management intellectuals were satisfied that their seniority system was preferable to the dominant Western pattern, and they began to articulate a new philosophy of management. The new philosophy incorporates many concepts from the modern Western management and has much in common with the large companies of the American region such as IBM, Polaroid, and Kodak.